My inheritance has cost me. The car and gadgets are nice. And I've almost gotten used to the smell in the cave. It's the criminals. Since my father died, they've focused their attention on me.
Hey man, somebody killed this lady.
And the people around me. My father's enemies have gotten more twisted with age, more violent and suicidal.
Crashing this train with no survivors.
Because they know their inevitable end is near. They've seen Batman die. They've seen each other die.
I can't believe they killed him. Yeah, man, things are getting really bad out here.
The Riddler.
This puzzle is far more than any mere game.
Dr. Death.
You and I go way back, Batman.
Two-Face.
I still believe in Harvey Dent.
All gone. Like the life I hoped for beyond this mask. Everything I have, everything I am, is because of him. I'm the Batman's daughter. I am the Huntress. And tonight, I'm hunting the man who destroyed my life.
Hello and welcome to the Huntress Podcast. This is episode 56. I'm Ashford and along with me is Diane. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Ashford.
This is awesome. This is brought to you by the Right On Network over at thehunterspodcast.com. We're talking about Helena Wayne's Huntress. We're covering the story Into Darkness once more. We have writer Paul Levitz, artist Joe Staten, Steve Mitchell on inks, letterer Ben Oda, Gene D'Angelo, colorist, and editor Lynn Wein. Lynn Wein. This came out in 1980. What do you think about this opening splash page, Diane?
Well, it's kind of a bit ominous when I look at it because we've got Helena Wayne standing in front of the graves of her parents. It's also quite foggy, you know, and so she's got a very pensive look there. So you're not sure if she's brooding or what she's thinking about, but something is definitely on her mind. And so it definitely has me thinking. I'm intrigued to find out what's going on, what's going on in her mind.
Outside of comics, Diane, are there any other, this is very next generation. The saga continues, legacy. Do you have it? Are there any other franchises or stories where you like the continuation of a bloodline or storyline? I know that's a loaded question.
There's not one that really comes up to mind. You know, I'm usually the type of reader that if there's an interesting character, an interesting concept out there, then that's usually what hooks me up, you know. And if the legacy is well established, if it's well done, then yeah, I might enjoy it. You know, right now, The Witcher, the Netflix series, is doing an origin story to, well, not so much an origin story, but they're actually doing a prequel series to the main series. And I think they called it, you know, The Witcher Blood Origins. And they're going to explore, you know, the core mythology of this world in depth. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. But in order for me to be invested in the prequel, I had to already be invested in the main story. And I really liked, you know, series 1 of The Witcher on Netflix. Haven't played the games, have not read the books, but I'm interested in seeing where it's going. But yeah, for me, when it comes to legacy or establishing, you know, a legacy, a bloodline legacy, then it depends on the story and if I'm invested in the characters or not. How about you?
Yeah, kind of all my life. So, you know, when I was a kid, they had in the 80s, it was Gidget. She was older. She had a kid. And Sally Fields played the original Gidget, or the television show Gidget in the 60s, but she wasn't in the TV show. But I like the idea of, hey, you know, when I was your age, I would surf, and now you're surfing. Hey, look at that. In Leave It to Beaver, they had the original cast members. They were older. They had kids. The kids behaved like them. I love that whole concept. The same thing with Pebbles and Bam Bam. They were babies, and then they had a series where they were older and they had a rock band. I enjoy that. It looks like real-time stuff because they're actually getting older. not being Bart Simpson where he's 11 for 40 years. And Simpsons, I respect it, is great stuff, great writing, a lot of good things come out of it, but it's just like, wait a minute, they're still not grown up. Same thing, with Scooby-Doo, they went reverse where like they showed them as kids. I thought that was cool. But that's something where I didn't realize at the time, or I probably did, but I didn't call it legacy. But I do enjoy that, like, oh, it's generations of it. Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. So that's why I really dig this Helena Wayne character. One of the reasons why. And Diane, what about as far as this podcast? We've been doing a lot of Helena Wayne stories where she's been with the JSA team. What do you think about this, going back to her going solo?
Well, this is really an opportunity for Helena Wayne to actually stand out more, because with the Just Society, she kind of tends to be overshadowed by the more experienced members. But this is an opportunity for her to actually truly stand out, and of course we get to actually see her supporting cast, because when she's with the Just Society, her teammates are basically, they're her cast, not supporting cast, they're just her cast. But here she actually gets a supporting cast, and so we're going to finally learn more about, her life as Helena Wayne and not as the Huntress, because with the JSA, she's only the Huntress. We see more Huntress than Helena. And so now that we're shifting focus back to the character solo adventures, we'll get to see a more balanced take on the character. We're going to see who she is as the Huntress when she's by herself, and we're going to see who she is as Helena Wayne. We're going to find out, what her relationships are outside of the Just Society, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. It's one of the things that truly appeals to me about the character is the fact that she's a daughter of two iconic characters, but she's also her own character. So her entire narrative is not dependent on the fact that she's a daughter of Batman and Catwoman. It doesn't even really build on that very much. They actually, Paul Levitz, Joe Staton, Bob Layton, they actually do some real work on the character, and they actually build her from the ground up. So it's really exciting to see how this character establishes her own identity, not just as Helena Wayne, but also as the Huntress. She decides what her own relationships are. She gets to decide what her narrative is going to be. She decides for herself what she wants, who she wants it with, and where she wants to be in her life. That is powerful to me. I like stories where women decide their own legacy and are not defined by their parents' legacy, especially the father's legacy, because in this case, Helena Wayne, she tends to more strongly be, written as the daughter of Batman, or, DC will always remind us that she's a daughter of Batman way more than they'll remind us that she's a daughter of Catwoman. So I think that it's very important that she gets I think it's important to see her built as her own character, because that really makes her stand out, and that, in my opinion, makes her stand the test of time, compared to if you make her another Batwoman or another Batman or another Robin or whatever. Batwomen come and go. The mantle is not set to one person, but when you give Helena Wayne her own identity, her own mantle, she's here to stay. The Huntress is here to stay. So that will always appeal to me about Helena.
I like that. So this was a backup in Wonder Woman number 271. I'm reading it now through the collective trade paperback, The Huntress Origins. Diane, can you give us the synopsis to this one?
Yes, absolutely. It is late at night, and Helena Wayne is paying a visit to her parents' graves as the Huntress, ruminating about the chain of events that transpired earlier that day. While at work, an old friend of hers, Winston Pitt, pays a visit to express his distress over his paintings being vandalized while in the custody of the Gotham City Museum. He especially wants to sue the museum for negligent security, which Helena admits doesn't fall within her line of work as a public interest lawyer. Still, she decides to help him all the same in another capacity, as the Huntress. During her investigation, she comes across a black market art dealer named Sidney, but fails to get any useful information out of him, as he was also unable to obtain any forgeries of Pitt's original work, let alone his actual work. With no other leads, Helena decides to call it a night and return home at 3 a.m. To her surprise, she notices a lurker at her door and decides to let him in. The lurker is none other than Gotham's very own district attorney, Harry Sims. While Harry does admit to being attracted to Helena, he also confirms he's not there to have sex with her. Rather, he has a business-related problem he wants to discuss with her, but Helena insists that he see her during her actual business hours and not late at night while she's trying to sleep. Ironically, this late-night encounter with Harry causes her to rethink Winston Pitt's case from a different perspective and decides to return to the museum for further investigation rather than get any sleep. What she finds once she gets there is not any uncouth youths or vandals, but one Solomon Grundy, about to loot the entire museum. And this concludes Into Darkness Once More, featured in Wonder Woman number 271. Stay tuned for more discussion.
All right, our bags are packed and we got the snacks. It's time for the Longbox Crusade road trip to the Longbox Mobile, crew.
Shotgun.
Dang it.
Everyone buckled up. Here we go.
Well, now that the garage is empty, Gene will have more space to record episodes of LBC Irregulars, the indexing of the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes TV series.
Oh no! Did anyone remember to leave Clinton some food down in the basement? He's gonna need it as he makes more episodes of Fan Film Fridays, his ongoing look at online fan films.
Why are you speaking in such a scripted manner, Dark Web? Anyway, you can relax. I asked Rick, or was it Jeff? Who can remember? I asked the attic guy to come down from time to time to check in on Clinton. Take some breaks from recording Monday Movie Muckabout, his movie review show.
Weasel Skull, did you give Rick the key to the basement?
Key.
Sounds like LBC headquarters is in good hands, Death Probe.
Right you are, Cristados. Oh, Pat, can we stop off at KB Toy Store? I want to pick up some Transformers and G.I. Joes. They remind me of Transformers Chronicles and G.I. Joe Chronicles. Our show's going through the Marvel run of Transformers comics and the Devil's Due run of Joe comics.
Well, while you guys are doing that, we can also stop by a Blockbuster video and get some tapes to watch for Action Film Face Off. That's the show where we discuss 2 action films and have them duke it out to see which one is the episode champion.
Is that VHS or beta?
Either one is fine.
We've got a lot of stops to make, but if we can, let's squeeze in the Walden books and score some comics for us to talk about on Crusader Chronicles, the show where we move chronologically through the Amazing Spider-Man comics and include a bonus issue from the same release date as the Spidey recovery.
I will definitely keep an eye out for a Walden Books. It'll come in handy for the pure Longbox Crusade episodes, our time capsule show where we take a deep dive into a randomly selected comic and talk about news, music, and movies and ads that were popular when the books were released. I'll also be on the lookout for our electronic boutique, EB, if you guys don't know the lingo back then, so we can get some more comic-related video games for us to discuss on Comics to Council Crusade.
Good thinking. If time permits, let's hit Circuit City. I need more positrons for our Pop Culture Posicast show, the one where we find all the good stuff in pop culture that others seem to poo-poo.
Positrons?
Shut up and go with it.
These old-timey, out-of-business store jokes doing anything for you folks? Well, if you like old-timey stuff, we also offer Saturday Matinee Theater, our look back at old TV shows, serials, and films that have kind of been forgotten.
I think that about covers it. We definitely want to be your road trip crew, folks.
Whether it's your commute to work or a road trip of your own, why not pass the time with us? Your friends at the Longbox Crusade.
Once again, that's Longbox Crusade, available on all your finer podcatchers.
Good job, team. I'm getting hungry. Pat, stop at the next Kenny Rogers Roasters that you see.
Or Bennigan's.
Burger Chef!
Hello and welcome to the Huntress Podcast, episode 56. Diane and Asher with you. We are talking about Into Darkness Once More. We're talking about Helena Wayne's Huntress. We're back at it. It's like it's a new season where we saw our solo stories, we saw her origins, we saw the team that she's with, and it's almost like we're in the beginning of series 3 where we're kind of reestablishing her home base. Diane, talk to us about Cranston, Grayson, and Wayne.
Well, this law firm was originally introduced in the Batman family story that we covered, which was the real estate scam story. So the only notable difference in when we revisit, the only notable difference that I noticed when we revisit, the law firm for the first time in a while is that it's got a new employee there, Carol Martin, but then it's also missing Roger Damaris, that one blonde-haired guy who was very sexist and just didn't like Helena. So we don't.
A human resources disaster.
We don't know what happened to him. He just only appeared for that one story, and he just seemingly left, I guess. I'm going to assume in my head. I'm going to say my head canon is this. He quit the job because he wasn't getting the recognition that he wanted and is working for somewhere else. That's my version of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. My version is way worse, but
let's hear it. Let's see your version.
Oh, just he got in trouble with human resources and was dishonorably discharged.
See, there you go. That works. It's even better. It's more fitting of that character.
You know what? Actually, it could have been he wasn't cutting the mustard. Because I could see Helena Wayne being a way more skilled lawyer than him, and he seemed like someone that's not pulling the weight. And either he saw the sack coming and he just sacked himself.
That's 3 different takes now. I love it.
Yeah. So, okay, and let's talk about this as far as exploring this world of this artist. He comes in and he's very distressed because his art's been vandalized, and he's not just coming in like, hey, lawyers represent me. He's specifically going to Helena Wayne. I like this whole concept of Helena would know the art world.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting take. I mean, Helena Wayne, she's a wealthy woman. I mean, she's Bruce Wayne's daughter. She's definitely going to have lots of world experience, lots of world exposure. She's going to be, interested in lots of things. So yeah, she's probably going to know a famous artist or two. But what really stands out about Winston Pitt here is that he's very much a hippie.
Yes.
And you're wondering if Helena Wayne at one point, was there a part of that, hippie culture during the 60s? I mean, she was a kid in the 60s, so... I don't know how long hippie culture lasted, in the US. I know it was definitely started as part of, an anti-war movement in the 60s. There were people who objected to the Vietnam War. And the 60s was also where that famous phrase of "make love, not war" originated. And yeah, so when we meet Winston Pitt in the story, he looks like he's very much a part of hippie culture. And we're wondering if Helena Wayne was ever a part of that. I don't think she would have been a part of that in the 60s because she was a kid. She would have been 10 years old in 1967. So probably in the 70s, perhaps. When she was a teenager. He's a
post-hippie. Yeah, he's a post-hippie. Another thing too, hippies after the 60s, and especially with the whole not Marilyn Manson, but with the Manson murders, then you start hearing dirty hippie, and it was kind of a dangerous thing to kind of still walk around like a hippie, especially in certain parts of Southern California. But it might have been something where, like, man, I'm so this, I can't, because that was the whole thing with, there was this TV show called Head of Class in the 80s where it was they were in New York and there was a bunch of smart kids, and it was kind of implied that the teacher was kind of post-hippie like. But another thing too is Helena's mom, Catwoman, Selena Kyle, or now I guess Selena Wayne, because of her background, she could have also introduced Helena to the art world.
I think Selena Kyle would have probably stolen more expensive artwork. We're talking Rembrandt or Caravaggio. I think those would be the kinds of artwork that Catwoman would find more valuable. I'm not sure that she would be invested in, new art movements of the 60s and 70s. I think that would be more a young Helena Wayne thing, perhaps. Maybe a teenage Helena Wayne thing. So yeah, every time I get to this story, I'm always curious to know how Helena Wayne met Winston Pitt. Did she meet him in uni, or did she meet him at an art gallery? Did she meet him at some kind of, hippie gathering? I don't know. But that's the thing that kind of stands out about Winnie for me, is that he looks like he's a part of hippie culture, and he never quite outgrew it. We're now in the year 1980, so he didn't seem to have ever outgrown that movement or that phase. So,
and also Helena could be a socialite where she's explored counterculture.
That's that as well. Yeah, but notice how she's dressed in those sequences with Winston. So she's very well dressed. She's got a very posh business attire, and she's even got a W on her sweater.
Now that's one inconsistency that I noticed, where in one panel, her sweater vest doesn't have the W, but in the other one it does. And hey, I'm fine with that. That's cool. I'd rather have a panel with a W on it than not at all, to be honest with you. And I like Helena's hairstyle in this.
Yeah, no, and that's another thing too, is that whenever she's Helena Wayne, she always pulls her hair back, but when she's a huntress, she leaves her hair loose. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, because I was almost fooled. I was like, wait a minute, does she have short hair? But yeah, I like with the hair pulled back, because she now, hey, I'm a woman of business. I mean business. I'm in my professional work, where I guess when she's the huntress, she's uninhibited.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, okay, I did not notice that detail where the W's on there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I just now got to that page, but yeah, you're right. She's got the W in one panel, and then she doesn't have it in another. But yeah, the thing that I like about Helena's hairstyle, going back to that, is that it really does make her look different from the huntress. So
yes,
and I think that's a great stylistic choice by Joe Staton, if he's the one who made that decision of, yeah, let's have her pull her hair back. So she's got that. I'm actually trying to figure out how she's holding her hair back, actually. So yeah, I like how she looks when she's Helena Wayne, because it's very different from how she looks as a huntress. So, and she's got a very different, even when she's got those fierce eyes, that fierce look on her face, it doesn't convey huntress. It conveys assertive businesswoman or assertive female lawyer. So I love how she's posed in that panel. I love how she's got a very determined yet fierce look on her face, but at the same time, it doesn't give away that she's a huntress. So I think that's amazing what Joe Staton did there in terms of artwork.
Another thing that Joe Staton did that was amazing was Cranston, Helena, the artist that came in, Winston Pitt, and the new secretary, they look like different people. Not just, like the artists, they usually have a style, and everyone kind of looks the same, just a different variation. These are like different human beings, like different art styles, and I appreciate the effort into that as well.
Yeah, they definitely, Joe Staton really does give everyone a distinct look there. Carol Martin has her own distinct look. You've got, Arthur Cranston, who's got a more squared look. And then you've got Winston Pitt, who's got a more lanky figure, and he very much looks like, a guy who's a part of hippie culture. So yeah, he really did a great job with the character designs here.
And thank you. That's what I meant. Distinct. They all have distinct looks. Yes. So one, I'm glad that we're reintroduced to that. And this is also, again, it's a catalyst to kickstart the story. But I do like that Helena and the artist, they have a prior history. It's not just a random coming in to Kickstarter. So I thought to add a personal touch. And then when Helena goes on the scene as the huntress to see like what happened, I like that they bring up the fact that, even though this was insured, this isn't like, they stole my Blu-ray player. It's insured, so they're going to replace it. This is something where, this artist is their soul, and even if they were to try to redo it, it won't be the same. So I like that whole little touch.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point there, because, when you create artwork, you can't really replace that. And of course, this is back in 1980. We didn't have digital art back then. We didn't have tablets back then. So yeah, at the time, a painting, if it was destroyed, you could never really get it back. And even if the artist were to sit there and recreate it, it won't be the same as it was before, as you said. So yeah, it wouldn't be the same today, I think, where many artists are now digital painters or digital artists. But yeah, this is actually a very unique take here, a very unique case of how do you handle a case where artwork was destroyed or not stolen? How do you recover that? You can't, So I can see Helena's, frustration there. I can see why she's angry about the painting being destroyed. I mean, how could you be, so cruel and callous as to do something like that, And I think that Joe Staton really captured that very succinctly in the second panel on the middle row. She's got both an angry look and a shocked look at the same time. Joe Staton really conveyed that really well. And you can just see that she's out for blood when she says, and worst of all, no insurance, no lawsuit, nothing can ever quite capture those images again.
So when Helena's like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to my next go-to. I'm going to go to this fence. This was something that I picked up when I was reading it this morning. The guy, he goes, what a lovely heist. 8 canvases, each an easy 20 grand. How nice of the boys to think of me as their fence. Now, he's talking about a whole nother case, right? Or...
Well, he's an art stealer, but he's an illegal art stealer, so he's constantly acquiring new artwork. And yeah, so from what we know, from what's being established on the page here, he's very much the man to go to if you want to acquire, expensive artwork or even just forgeries of them. And he's the hot guy on the racket, so yeah, he's everyone's go-to. And so it makes sense for Helena to decide, okay, well, let's start with the big fish in the pond and I guess work our way through the network. I don't know. She's not going to go through the small fish. I mean, you're not going to get much out of, the guppy in the pond, but you'll definitely get a lot from the bass in the pond. So yeah, she's going for the big fish here, and it's interesting because she goes after the main guy, and she doesn't get any useful information out of him, and that frustrates her. It's like, okay, how do you destroy the paintings of a famous artist and you not know anything about that? And that's a valid question, And of course, the fence reveals, look, we couldn't get a hold of even forgeries of this man's work. I'd know nothing of why they were destroyed, We would not have destroyed it. That's stupid. We would lose money if we did, And that makes sense. So in this case, Helena was reasoning, okay, someone destroyed the artwork. Why? And are they selling forgeries of the work elsewhere? So that's really what she's thinking about. And the defense here confirms, no, that's definitely not the case. We couldn't even get forgeries of his work, let alone the real thing. No, we would definitely not destroy it because we would lose money. And, well, that makes sense. But then Helena's back on square one.
I like revisiting these old stories because this used to be a big thing in movies where, hey, we're going to go to this fence. We know that they have stolen goods. And the first time I ever really understood the deep implications of that was the 1990s movie The Crow with the late Brandon Lee, where he went to the guy and was like, okay, like all these gold rings you see and diamond rings, these were probably people that were a married couple and they were killed and gunned down. And when they stole the jewelry, they knew for a fact you would buy it from them to sell to others. And it's like, I never really thought about it that way. That's some deep, immoral stuff. So I don't know if they've cut down on that in the real world or if that cliche or trope just died out, but we don't really see that now in storyteller, at least not what I'm watching or reading. So it's kind of interesting to revisit, like, yeah, this used to be a thing. The detectives would, like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the pawn shop dude. I know he knows something or hearing something because I know this pawn dealer. Like now we're looking at Pawn Wars or whatever, and we're like, oh yeah, these are good guys or whatever. But that used to be, I guess, seen as a seedy thing where, come on, man, when these people are trying to sell you guns, they didn't get this on the up and up. When they try to sell you this diamond ring, so it's kind of wild how it doesn't have that connotation anymore. So I don't know if it's just more in the background checks or when you sell this to me, I do have to get your info. So if this comes up, missing stuff, they're going to start questioning me on how are you acquiring these goods? So I like these like lost stories or lost tropes or things that we just don't see anymore. I like going back and reading old stuff and going like, oh yeah, we did used to do that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, rotary phone.
So there's another thing to bring up now that we're talking about the Helena pinning a fence with crossbow bolts onto a wall. This is the first time I think that we see her use a dagger.
Yeah, I think we've seen her do this balancing act thing with a dagger, but maybe not. But I feel like I've seen the balancing act dagger routine.
Well, here's the thing though: when Helena Wayne was first introduced, first she had a blue crossbow, and whenever she fought with the JSA, she only had the crossbow. And the first time that we saw her in a solo story, there were no knives there. So this is the first time that we see Helena throw a knife as a warning to a fence. Mm-hmm. So we see that she's got a new crossbow in this story. Because before she had a blue crossbow, even in the JSA stories. And now we're seeing her with a golden crossbow. It's bigger and I'm assuming more efficient than the last one.
Bigger and badder.
And so she pins this man, Sydney, to a wall with a couple of crossbow bolts. Yeah, so she pinned him with a couple of crossbow bolts, and she finishes off with a dagger. She's trying to get information out of him, and since she's not getting anywhere with him, she's like, you know what? She's got that displeased look on her face. So when she's putting the crossbow away, she's got that displeased look on her face of wasting my time here. So I'm going to have a little fun with this, I think, because by the next panel, she's got a smile on her face and she's got a dagger in hand and she says, "That's all you can tell me, Sydney? What a pity." And so she, balances the dagger on her finger there. And, she says, "Now, I was hoping a man as well informed as you could be of more help, but I guess I was wrong." And so at this point, he's kind of scared and, he's like, "What are you going to do with that knife?" And she says, "Nothing, just a present for you. Keep your hands clean." I think the implication there is that if you don't want to lose those hands, you better, make some serious life changes. It's just, I don't know, she just kind of tosses that knife to his hand and she misses the hand, so she's got good aim. I don't think she intended to actually sever his hand there, but as a warning, she said, "Yeah, keep your hands clean, you might lose them next time." And I don't think that's an idle threat. She can definitely aim, and she definitely aimed for the hand, but just missed it by a hair. So, yeah.
And she let him know that I know who you are.
Yeah. Poor guy, he passed out after that one. It's like I can't blame him. I would be genuinely traumatized if someone threw a knife at my hand and only scarcely missed it by a hair. Obviously she wasn't going to, cut it off for real, but still, it's that I think that would traumatize the person. To be honest, I would be scared shitless.
I definitely would. Unfortunately, I feel like he's still going to do shady stuff after this.
Oh, he's definitely going to avoid the Huntress moving forward. So
yeah. So when the Huntress, when she skedaddles to her next move, I thought this was interesting. They have these thought bubbles, and it goes, I went back to the cemetery to think it all out, but that didn't help. I guess I shouldn't look to Dad as an oracle, waiting for him to prompt me from beyond the grave. But I like they use that term oracle. The implications there, huh?
Yeah, future identity of Barbara Gordon, who actually already knows Helena Wayne by this point, foreshadowing.
Yes.
Accidental foreshadowing.
Yeah, because we talked about that in the Bat Family, right?
Yeah, so we had that impromptu Birds of Prey team up in Batman Family number 17, where she first met Bruce Wayne and the Earth One Dick Grayson for the first time. That was her first story on Earth One ever, was on Batman Family number 17. She got introduced to Barbara Gordon and Kathy Kane, Batgirl and Batwoman respectively. And she even met the Earth One version of her mum as Catwoman and Poison Ivy. So that was a fun story.
It sure was.
Cover. Yeah, it was very much a Birds of Prey style story with a Gotham City Sirens ring to it. You had the Birds of Prey and you had the Gotham City Sirens, at least two of the members, because Harley Quinn was not created yet. So
let's talk about Harry at the door.
I can never get to that page without laughing. It's okay. So Helena Wayne, I guess she dives into a chimney. I'm not sure, or a skylight. Chimney or skylight? What do you think, Ashford?
I'm going to say skylight because that just seems cooler. But man, yeah, I didn't. You know what? I didn't pay attention to that. That's a chimney. I mean, I don't know. Yikes.
Yeah, I'm like, I can never decide if it's supposed to be a skylight or a chimney. Well, I think we can assume skylight because she's not covered in soot when she comes out on the other end of it. But okay. So Helena just got home. She's back in her flat, right? She's taken off her mask and she's, getting ready for bed, and she hears she hears a creak near her door, and she's like, okay, who the hell is lurking about? And so she opens the door, right? And she says, okay, whoever you are, come on in. And of course, Harry just kind of fumbles right in. And she's got that, I don't know how to describe that look. She's, that kind of look that your mom gives you when you've been caught doing something you're not supposed to be doing. She's got that look on her face. And yeah, so Harry's all, hi, Helena. I guess you're wondering why I was at your door at 3 a.m. And of course, my favorite response here from Helena is, why no, Harry? I always expect the district attorney at this hour. It's like, what you thinking? And she's like, okay, yeah, I know what you're thinking. You probably think I'm here for other reasons. And I can assure you that's not it, And so he's like, can I explain? And of course, Helena validates what he's thinking. She says, no, it's okay. I can think of a list of reasons all by myself, but I thought you were too gentlemen for that, we all know what she's implying there. So
yeah,
she's very much confirming, oh yeah, I definitely thought you were here to have sex, and yeah, thanks for letting me know that's not what's on your mind, but why are you here? No one shows up at 3 a.m. if they're not thinking of that. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I love the look on his face when he just kind of falls through. But it's also kind of a strange way to introduce Harry, because this character is going to be important to the character later. He's going to be an important person to Helena Wayne. But it's just so funny how he's introduced, I guess Paul Levitz and Joe Staten was hinting at a future relationship by making it known that, he was at Helena's door at 3 a.m. Of course, the one thing on everyone's mind is going to be, he's there for sex. I guess he's got that kind of relationship going on with Helena. They confirm at this point that no, that's very much not the case, but they put the thought out there. They got it out there. So, what's your take on that, What's your take on that, Ashford?
I think there's a lot going on here. So one, as far as a storytelling device, it's that we're trying to introduce this character, Harry. We even do the expository dialogue of, you are still here, Harry Sims, district attorney for Gotham Southern District, aren't you? So like, that's just, okay, we introduced him. But it's a lot of things going on. Like the whole thing, I opened up the door and he fell through. I'm getting, because I mentioned this before, that I'm like, is this like Helena working at the office, all this stuff? I wonder if in their minds, they're kind of thinking Mary Tyler Moore, because that show was on throughout the 70s. And then this whole open the door, someone falls through. I'm getting Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke vibes. So that's on the innocent level of this.
Yeah.
But I see it as Harry, he's used to getting a river of green lights. So he thought like, oh, I got an idea at 3 a.m. People always have patted me on the head and said that I'm wonderful. So yeah, I can just knock on her door. And she's going to jump and go, and I go, hey, I got this idea. We should do this, this, and this. She's going like, wow, yeah, I'm so honored that you even include me in this, Harry. She was like, you got a great idea. Great. I'll see you in 6 hours. What are you doing?
Yeah, I can safely say for myself, the very first time that I read this story, I thought something else was going to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I was actually a bit surprised, I guess you could say, how long ago was that I read this story for I don't even know, a decade ago now at this point, right? But yeah, I remember the first time I read this story, I think it was obvious that they were looking to establish Harry as a romantic love interest for Helena, but it's just the way that they introduced him was kind of both funny but also kind of alarming at the same time, because the first thing that Paul Levitz and Joe Staten and Bob Layton had me think about was, oh yeah, Helena's going to get action at 3 a.m. in the morning after she did her other type of action hours earlier. So yeah, they planted the idea. I don't think that's by accident. So
yeah, so 3 things are getting established. We're introducing you to Harry. I guess we're introducing you to possible love interest, but it's also to get the ball rolling of when she goes, whew, man, sometimes they can't even sign their names without a committee to help. Well, wait a minute. The signature, the forgery.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Why didn't she realize that before when she was at the museum? And here's the thing, if she knows Winston Pitt, right, and she's confirming in this page that she knows what his signature looks like, how come she did not notice that the signature was off the first time that she was there? I always ask that question when I read this story.
I can let it pass. She is a super duper detective, so it is kind of like, yeah, why didn't she notice that? But to me, that's not a wild thing not to notice. But again, on the beginning, if she would have said, wait a minute, that's not even a signature, that's a forgery, we would have believed, yeah, she would recognize the signature. So
yeah, the reason why that concept doesn't work for me is because it's already been established by this point that Helena Wayne's a very meticulous detective. She looks at every single detail with a fine-tooth comb. So how did she overlook that one?
Yeah, story device.
Yeah, I guess we can just safely say that Paul Levitz didn't really think that one through when he put it in the script. But I don't know. I think I would have preferred the other thing that they were implying, because at least you would have gotten some rest afterwards,
Mm-hmm, yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? When Harry's leaving, I like how they have it dark under Helena's eyes. It's almost like I haven't slept in days, but it's a cool look because she's the Huntress.
She made me think of Tomie from Junji Ito's character.
Ah.
I don't know if you've read any of Junji Ito's work, but
No.
Tomie is one of his more iconic manga series. Actually, Tomie has that manga actually spawned a successful film franchise in Japan and has even gotten television adaptations, and was originally supposed to get another TV adaptation last year, but that just didn't go through. But yeah, whenever I see that panel with Helena, telling him, okay, yeah, see me in 6 hours. I'm a growing girl and I need my sleep, right? And she's got that Tomiya look. And I'm like, yeah, when Helena Wayne's got her Tomiya look going on, you better take it seriously. Yeah, Tomiya, she was actually created in 1989, so she wasn't even around yet when Joe Staton depicted her with that Tomiya look. So yeah, it just, whenever I see Helena making that look, she does look like a Japanese onryo ready to attack. So take it seriously when she says, see her in 6 hours.
Yeah. So, and this is a situation where Helena doesn't even have a chance to get 30 winks or whatever.
She didn't even
She jumped straight into it.
Yeah, she did not even get any rest. So, yeah, and that's going to be interesting when this comes up in the next chapter of this story. But yeah, so it's so funny. She got home for like 2 seconds and she was back, in a Huntress garb, and she finally noticed what she did notice, what I felt she should have noticed earlier. So, yeah, I don't know. That really doesn't quite work for me, to be honest. Okay, I think that introducing Harry and establishing as a romantic love interest, that works, but I think I would have been more sold on these two people actually being involved if the other thing I thought was going to happen actually did happen,
Yeah.
Because then it would not have been so weird, the second time that we see Harry in the story, in a Helena Wayne story, and Helena confirms that, yeah, she's in an intimate relationship with him. Well, yeah. So, yeah. The whole idea of, Harry needing her help with something is what tipped her off that, oh no, something was off about the signature on the painting of the museum. I always come back to that question of, why didn't you notice that earlier? Especially since we know that Helena Wayne is a very meticulous detective. She examines every detail with a fine-tooth comb. That sort of thing would not have slipped her mind or gone unnoticed on the first look. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really work for me that Harry's night call somehow made Helena realize, oh no, something's off about that signature. It just doesn't quite register. It doesn't quite, kind of feels forced to me for some reason.
I can see that as well. And towards the end of this, Helena's back on the scene. She goes back to, I guess, the museum, the art gallery, and she bumps into some stuff, right?
Yeah, she bumps into Solomon Grundy.
I was excited when I saw that.
Yeah. Now the real question is, why is Solomon Grundy destroying artwork that he could easily make money off of? I guess that's a topic of conversation for chapter 2 of this story.
Right, because the whole thing is like, okay, motive. What is the motive? Why? What is the why of this? Why? Right?
It's a cliffhanger that it ends on.
Yeah, so when I got to that panel and I saw Solomon Grundy, I was just excited about that because I was like, okay, we got a heavy hitter. So this isn't small time potatoes. I'm already excited because I'm reading this Helena Wayne story, and the way that it was laid out, it's how I like storytelling, as far as we got a little bit of all her worlds, as far as we see her being the Huntress, we saw her at work being Helena Wayne, we even saw some home stuff. We get a kind of a glimpse into her world because, well, we know that she knows artists. And then at the very end, they let you know, like, hey, I always think it's cool when new villains pop up on the scene, but, oh, we're going to have her face off against Solomon Grundy?
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
And notice that this is going to be her first JSA villain that she fights without the JSA, so that's also the other thing that I'm interested in.
I love it. Diane, final thoughts about this one?
All I've got to say is I can't wait to see how Helena Wayne handles Solomon Grundy by herself without the assistance of the JSA, because now we get to see her use her strategizing skills without a team. So I'm interested in seeing how that works out.
Same here, because she's not superhuman, so she's gonna have to use her combat skills and wit.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, she's going to have to rely on intelligence and, her strategizing skills. And here's the thing about Solomon Grundy. Yeah, he may talk like he's dumb, but he's not actually dumb. So he's actually going to prove to be quite formidable for her. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the next 2 chapters of the story.
So yeah, we're going to wrap this up. This is episode 56 of the Huntress Podcast. Let us know what you think. Write to us at thehuntress.podcast.com. We're also on Twitter at Huntress Podcast. If you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can find us by typing in the Batgirl / Huntress Podcast. I'm pretty sure if you type in Huntress Podcast, we'll pop up. If you go to Apple Podcasts, type in Right On Network. That is WRIGHT on Network. This podcast will pop up as well as other lovely podcasts we have here at the Right On Network. And I just want to give a shout out to our patron subscribers, Casey, Alan W. Wright, Delvin Sims, Tim Price, Mark Ross, aka Clark Trent, Mark Blair, Rob Kelly over at the Fire and Water Podcast Network, Paul Hicks at Waiting for Doom, and Dial F for Flanger, and Laurel Phillips. Till next time, it has been Diane and myself, Ashford. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.